Hi, everyone. Thank you for those of you that are joining us. My name is Sarah Muindi. I am a current Chevening scholar based in University of Loughborough, which is a rural town in I think the East Midlands. Yeah, and I'm really delighted to be here today to be having this live. And I have an amazing guest on this live with me today. And I'm going to be inviting her to introduce herself in a minute. So today we'll be talking about the first two questions of the application for Chevening. And if you have any questions, please ensure you put them in the comment section. If you're joining us, also remember to tell us where you're joining us from so that we don't speak our local language and leave you out. So, Kavuda, you're welcome to introduce yourself. Tell us which uni you're in, what course you're pursuing, and then we can proceed.
Hi guys. So my name is Janet Kavudha. I'm a wildlife researcher and currently a Chevener. I'm in the University of Kent pursuing a master's in conservation biology.
Okay, amazing. Thank you, Kavuda, for sharing about the uni you're in. Before we get into the business of discussing the essays, um, please tell us one amazing thing that you like about your uni since you got there. And I'll also share one amazing thing and then we will dive into the questions.
Oh wow. Okay, there's so many amazing things, but I think one thing that stands out as at now,
Mm-hmm.
and the main reason why I chose University of Kent is because there's a research institution that is called Durrell Institute of Conservation Ecology,
Mm-hmm.
which is DICE. It's a research institution for wildlife, and they have projects across the world. So almost all my lecturers have done some research work in have conversations with them and yeah, talk about anything in general because at least we have a common ground. So I think that is one amazing thing that I can say so far. It's helping me to blend in with my lecturers really well. Mm.
Amazing. Okay, that's pretty technical for people who are in conservation. Get very excited. So for me, at Loughborough, one of the most amazing things about this place is that they have the best sports module and course in the world. So like
Mm.
the top athletes normally come here to train, and like they even have an elite athlete court where those
Wow.
top level athletes normally stay when they're training here. There's some big names that have trained here, even schooled here in the sports field. I don't want to mention David Beckham because I don't know whether he was here or not, but he's the only footballer that I know. So, like footballers, runners, swimmers. So mention it. So it's actually the best in the world in terms of sport and the
Mm.
study of sport and sport medicine and sports psychology, those things. So they have a very vibrant sport community here. So that's the most one of the amazing things about our uni. And now we are going to be diving right into the questions so that we can be able to be as exhaustive as possible with our conversation today. For you that's joining us, please consider typing on the chat. Engage with us. Tell us where you're joining us from. Raphael, thank you for joining us tonight. You can also let us know which part of the world you're joining us from. We'll be delighted to hear that as well. If you have any questions concerning your essays in particular and concerning these first two questions that we'll be unpacking, this is the chance for you to actually put them down here so that we will be able to give you as much targeted information as possible for you and also as helpful for the rest of the audience as possible. So engage us on the chat and tell us where you're joining us from. And if you have any questions, put them in the chat. If you want to comment, put them in the chat. You can also tell us what you love about the unis that you have selected so that we also see if there are some things that we share in common. Thank you for joining us from Eldoret. Elvis from Zambia, we are delighted to have you. Sydney from Nairobi, amazing. You're welcome on board. Kavuda, we are diving into the very first question. So I'm going to read it out aloud, and then you will break it down for me and for the audience, so that then everyone is able to know, for this question, this is what you should answer. You're free to also read some of the responses from your essay on the question, or even other questions, so that guys can get a scope of what this essay actually asks and what they should actually be answering. And Afiz from Nigeria, you're welcome. I want to give all of us a disclaimer, please. Most of the time, when you have a conversation with a Chevening scholar and we are reviewing the essays, normally you listen to us and you say, oh my goodness, if I had submitted my application the way it was, I would never have gotten in, because of how helpful the kind of insights that we share normally are, and even the way the language you should use to put your essays. So thank you, Peter from Kenya. We are delighted that you've joined us. Horace from Nairobi, thank you for being here. Kavuda, take it away. So let me read the question and then you can be able to answer. So question one of the essays, just before I read it, if you're here and you have no idea what the Chevening Scholarship is, please go to my channel and watch a couple of videos. Go to the website and just search for some insight about the Chevening Scholarship, so that we move a bit faster with the guys that are already making their applications. Thank you, Francisca from Samburu. You're very welcome. So the first question, Kavudano, is on leadership and influence, and it reads, Chevening is looking for individuals who will be future leaders or influencers in their home countries. Explain how you meet this requirement using clear examples of your own leadership and influencing skills to support your answer. It's a minimum of 100 words, maximum of 500 words. So, thank you, Munane from Nyeri. You're welcome. Kavuda, what should someone be putting in their essays for this question?
Okay. So for leadership questions, so number one, you need to remember that you have 500 words. And in most cases, you're supposed to give 3 examples. But if you feel you have 2 stronger examples, you can use that chance to expound on them and make them more realistic and more catchy. So one thing I would advise is you can have, when you are structuring your essay, the beginning of your essay, you can have like an opening statement and then dive in into your examples. So, like for me, my opening statement was, um, so my approach in leadership has been to spearhead ideas, raise funds towards their implementation, monitor their progress, and share outcomes and lessons learned with stakeholders. You see, so you need to have like that opening statement, make it 2 sentences, and then dive in. So after you give your opening statement, you go in. While I was at this organization, I did this. So every your example, remember 500 words is very, it's very small number of words for you to be able to explain following the STAR approach. So the STAR approach means number one, you should give the situation. Number two, you should show the task, what you are assigned to do. And number three, action, what you did. And then you give us your result. So the STAR approach, because in this way, it's a short summary for you to come out and tell people, while I was here, this is the problem that I noticed, and this is what I did, and these were the results. Or for example, when I was working for this organization, this project, we started this project and I was tasked to do this, but there was this problem, and in my position now, I came in and gave this solution, and these were the results. So it needs to follow that flow, right? So I think today I'll be generous and just read you guys one of my examples just to give you the flow of things. So this was my third example. So, and it goes this way. So while at FONAP, that is the organization which I was working for, There were large sections of degraded spaces within the park after construction of the standard gauge railway. So that I've already given the situation. Then I approached the Kenya Wildlife Service office to initiate a reforestation program. So that was the task that I decided to do. And then I then wrote emails and scheduled meetings with the tourism companies under the Kenya Association of Tour Operators, offering them an opportunity to carry out a community social responsibility, that is CSR, activity and market themselves. I also reached out to the youth under the Millennial Environmentalist Group to volunteer and network with potential employers and collaborators. I established a planning committee that was able to pool resources from private and public entities and managed to raise up to 20,000 US dollars. This money facilitated a successful restoration program for organizing a tree planting day, where we planted 5,000 seedlings, and we had a budget for we had an aftercare budget for 2 years, which meant the survival of these tree seedlings was guaranteed. And then now, like I said, that was my third example. So I close by saying, as a Chevening alumni, I will build my leadership skills and influence to mobilize resources that will help solve conservation problems. So the same way you had an opening statement is the same way you need to have a closing statement. What will you do? How will you, being a Chevener, contribute or build your leadership skills, and what will you do with those skills? You see? So here you are open depending on your field and depending on what problems you want to solve personally. This now you can make your closing statement as stronger, right? So yeah, so that is the structure that your essay should take. So number one, remember to explain the situation very well. Give us a picture. Make someone who is not in your field, let's say, like if you're in conservation and someone in the medical health or in education has been given the opportunity to read your essays, is it something they're going to understand, or are they going to strain to understand you? So paint a clear picture. This was the situation, this was the task, and this was the action, and these were the results, right? If you feel like you need more words, then pick the two most relevant examples and the ones that stand out for you, and spend the 500 words explaining those two examples, because at the end of the day we need to know how you stand out as a leader. So many people do things in the community, so many people uh, engage into impactful programs, but if you don't show us, if you don't tell us, we are not going to be reading and scanning through your essays trying to get exactly what this person did, you see. So yes, you are an exceptional person, everyone in your community or in your field tells you are doing great things, but if you're not able to put that in paper and follow the structure that is required, you don't stand a chance. So it's a skill that you need to build, and it's something that you need to take very seriously, and be strategic about it. Yeah. So if you need help, like, just put your examples down in whatever language, in whatever English you can, then find someone to build proper statements and sentences for your example to fit nicely in the required number of words. Then one thing that I think I should mention is, I mentioned this last time. Before your essays are given to individuals to review, the system reviews the applications first. So if you write more than 500 words, you are automatically out. You can write, let's say, like 480 something, 490. But again, if you write shorter, like 400 and less, you'll also be disqualified, because you are not using the given space and maximize the potential, your potential, because you as a leader, you've really done a lot of things, so you need to utilize almost all the words. If you can't reach 500, at least 450, just balance between 450 and 500. But again, I don't know of any person who has ever written more than less than 500 words, because it's always a struggle for you to even lessen your wording to 500 words. So if you, I don't, give me someone, but I know everyone that I have met and talked to, they got their 500 words in. Yeah. So unless there are questions, I think I've been able to summarize and cover into details what your leadership essay should look like and what you should consider. And I've even read one of my examples.
Thank you, Kavuda. For everyone that's joining this live right now, I can see our numbers are rising a bit. Please drop in the chat your name, for example, and where you're joining us from, or just where you're joining us from. We'd like to see the representation on this live. And for you that is just joining us, Kavuda is a Chevening Scholar 2023-24 at University of Kent. I am a Chevening Scholar from Loughborough, studying business psychology. So I wanted to share a story. Collins, you're welcome. Please also let us know where you're joining us from. Peter, I've noted down your question. I'll respond to it in a minute. Kavuda, I wanted to tell you, when I was making my application, so I literally got to like 490. I went back and then I sat and then I was looking for spaces to add. I don't know what they're called, those filler words. Therefore, search. I'm telling you, I had to get to 500 words. So,
Now my case was different. Mine I had surpassed. So
yeah,
I kept looking for what sentences I can combine,
yeah.
how many, which words I can remove, how I can make these sentences shorter for them to fit 500 words.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. So we had such different experiences. You also can check your word count on Word Counter. It's free. You just copy paste your words, and then it counts for you how many words you have put in, and then you're able to you put all the you ensure you get to the word count. The word count is normally 500. Just give it your best, read through, consider what else you want to change so that you get to that word count. If you're here, you just joined us, please let us know where you're joining us from so that we can be able to respond to you. Just give me a minute. I'm trying to log back in and pull up the questions so that I can be able to read them back and respond as well. But I also liked that the numbers are important. You also need to put in your numbers so that people can know the magnitude of the impact of your work as a leader. So it's not only that you are vague. You can't be vague when you're being specific and saying that as a leader, I have been able to successfully lead a team of people. You need to say how many members have you led and what have you done with those people that you have actually led, so that it's actually very clear that there is impact here. This is not just a story. Also, you don't need to have had leadership experience um, only in like big organizations or in a company where you are working. If you've been a volunteer in church and you've led something, if
Yeah.
you've done a project in the community and you've gotten your neighbors to clean up the apartment block where you live, use the examples. They don't have to be technical or complex, especially if you don't have that kind of leadership experience. But if
Mm.
you do, please don't waste any of it. Put it in your application. Abua says, I'm glad to stumble across this live. Is there any penalty for using AI as an assistant in writing these essays? Of course, the penalty is that you will be out, because as Kavuda just mentioned, there's a system that checks all the writing for plagiarism, for AI plagiarism as well. So before these applications even get to readers, and as we mentioned in our previous essay, there are filters on every step, so that if you're not meeting some certain criteria, you're out. Kavuda, you can also give your input on using AI to assist you to write the essays. What do you think?
Yeah, just like you said, I think AI is also is a system, and I think also the system that is used. So I think there's a way these tech that they can always identify each other. I don't know, but I believe so. So um, don't don't put yourself to test. Like, don't just test yourself, just believe in yourself and go in with your examples. So using AI, and these people, they don't really need big English to for you to explain your examples. What they are looking for is, are you a person who is able to influence change in your community, right? So if let's say in campus you are a student leader, and there was this problem among students, and you approached your dean, and you are able to talk, have meetings, and find a solution, and now the problem was solved, either 100% or 50%, 20%, 10%. That is your impact and is what we should be proud of, right? And make your examples realistic. So these people are just looking for the ways that shows you are able to influence, right? So if you use, even if you use the most basic English, as long as they can say, they can see this person, there was a problem in the community, was able to approach the chief or maybe the police station in his area and work through a solution, and a problem was solved. That is what they want, right? So even if your problem, the problem that you are solving, may it big or may it be small, however you use big English, like I told you guys, you are in conservation or you are in engineering, someone who's in a totally different field might be given your essays to review, right? So if you use terminologies that are so complex, this person might just decide to log you out. And also use terminologies that during interview you can be able to mention them, because the reason for interviews is they need is always they need to be able to compare your essays and your story, right? Because yes, you can use AI, you can cram those wordings, but there's something called follow-up questions. Sarah can tell you about that. There's something called follow-up question. You might give an example. They tell you, give us an example of your leadership example. Then you talk, and they ask you a follow-up question, and because you are used to this terminology, you've crammed it, the AI terminology, you get confused and you fail to answer that follow-up question, so you've already fumbled your chance, right? So just be real. Just be real. One thing that Chevening people are looking for, they're looking for people who are real. And through your writing, through the interview, someone will just tell if you are real or you are trying to create a persona. So just be real with your examples. Believe in your role and in the impact that you've been able to make in your community, your school, your church, right? So these are the things that they want to see. Because yes, you've done all these things, but if you can't stand and it's like you are creating your own profile. The Swahili people say chema chajiuza, kibaya chajipoteza. So you've done a lot of things. People tell you, oh, you've done this, you're really a great leader. But can you stand in front of people and say, I was able to influence this. This is the problem that I saw, and I did this and this and this. So that is basically, they're looking for people who are real. They're looking for people who believe in themselves, most importantly, and people who also are confident that they're going to get this scholarship and even do greater things for their communities.
Thank you, Kavuda. I'm going to say in helping answer Abel. Abel, yes, you can use Grammarly for example, because of course I used word counter to check how many words I had. Though I'd recommend once you finish using Grammarly to check the grammar, go back and reread your own work and make the corrections that you need to make, so that your work is able to show that this is you that has actually done it, and these sentences have been constructed by a human being. And normally, because of course AI is developing, but don't risk your chances, because the plagiarism level, it's even when you go to the website for Chevening, that's the first thing they normally highlight about your applications. If there's plagiarism, unfortunately, you will not be able to proceed. I'm going to go back and answer question two, and then we'll come back and answer some of the questions that have been asked by a few people. Collins, thank you. We are wishing you the best this year. I'm hoping that the insights we share will also be helpful for you as you're applying again. Don't give up. I have met people that have applied for Chevening more than 5 times, more than 2 times, more than 3 times. So don't give up in applying. Just continue learning and continue refining your applications. So, um, Abel, I hope we have answered you. Don't risk your chances. Use what is helpful, yes, but go back and just redo your work and give it the humanistic touch and feel and make sure that you're not using AI to generate the actual essays. Then thank you, Francis, for joining us from Meru. We are delighted. For the new guys joining us, let us know where you're joining us from. We'll be glad to also see the representation on this live. So Elvis has asked why we offered admission in all our 3 unis that we applied to, and what did we consider as most significant factors in choosing our universities respectfully. Kavuda, you can go, then I'll answer next, and then we'll go to question number 2.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, what to consider while choosing universities?
Mm,
So, you need to look closely and analyze yourself. What skills do you want to grow in your field?
yeah.
First, I think the most important thing is to assess yourself. What level are you in your field, and where do you want to get?
Mm,
So, for example, in my field, like I said, I'm a wildlife researcher.
mm,
uh, I was working on growing my data analysis skills and getting into understanding more concepts in conservation research and leadership as well, and also working with communities, right?
mm,
So when I was looking for a course, I was looking for a course that is encompassing all the things, all the areas that I want to grow in. So number one is leadership. So my course offers a leadership development module. Number two, it offers community conservation modules, which means that I'll get to get more insights on how to run programs in communities and work with communities. And number three, my research skills. So research skills in natural sciences and social sciences, right? So there are so many universities that offered masters in conservation biology and many timings. So there were so many, but I was specific in the area. So these 3 areas I wanted to grow my skills. So in every university that I would check, I would go to the modules, then you check what are they offering in the modules. If you want to grow your skills in statistics or GIS and analysis, if it's there, then it's a tick. If maybe they're also it's a because some courses also combine uh, policy. If you want to grow your skills in policy and governance, you also look for that. There are so many universities in the UK that are offering different things. The names of the courses might be the same, but their modules are very different, so you need to be specific on what you are looking for and what skills you want to gain. And yeah, I remember that is one thing that my boss told me when I was applying. What skills do you want to growing, and where do you want to see yourself in the next 5 years? If it's in policy development, then look for a course that is encompassing the policy aspect. If it's in research, then look for a course that is more focused on research skills. So yes, and do you have to get did we get admission in all 3 universities? I think that question I answered last time, so you can go back to that video and watch. But what we said is that only at least make sure you have 2 offer letters by the time, especially when you're shortlisted. That should be in Feb. If you're shortlisted, let's say for example in Feb, make sure that by the time the results are coming out, you have at least 2 offer letters from different university. If you get the 3 offer letters from all universities, well and good. And one thing I normally tell people, getting admission in UK universities is the easiest thing that you will ever do. Most universities are always happy to have students, right? But now getting the scholarship is always the challenge. So make sure you look for, again, I think I mentioned this last time, if you don't want to spend money on English test, then look for universities that don't have an English test as a requirement. You see, um, if you don't want a university that will pressure you into paying school fees, then look at the deadlines and their policies when it comes to school fees payment. Yeah, so do proper research. Just choose, and then another thing when it comes to choosing uh universities, you need to also look at other amenities, accommodation, the cost of accommodation, right? If you're someone who wants to use your stipend maybe to support your family back home, you also want to consider where you are going to be a place where you can be able to save money, right? Yeah, so there's a lot of considerations that come into this, but number one is your skills, because at the end of the day you want to be in a university that will help you grow your career and your profession. Then number two, have those consideration. Do you want to go to London where life the cost of living is high? Do you want to go to where the cost of living is low? What other things, what are your hobbies, right? If you like hiking, maybe go choose a school that is in a place where the hiking trails are many. If you like the beach, choose a school that is closer to the beach. If you like history, those are some of other things that should come into play. But one thing I will say is that do proper research, especially when it comes to accommodation and fee payment, and also the cost of living in that particular town or city where you want your university is going to be. Just do proper research. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Kavuda. So, Peter, in the question on career plan essay and how to connect it to what the UK is doing in Kenya, we'll answer it next week on Saturday, because next week we'll be handling studying in the UK and career plan. So, please join us next week to get some context around that answer. For me, I applied to 3 unis. I got an offer from two. One was unconditional from my uni Loughborough. The other one was conditional from my second uni Heriot Watt. My first ranking, guys, was Hertfordshire. Hertfordshire did not even respond to me. So by the time I was like, thank God I changed the ranking of my universities. These guys are giving me problems. So those are the 3 units I applied to. The condition for Heriot Watt that I did not meet was the English test. They wanted me to do an English test, and Loughborough accepted a letter from my employer saying that I have been working, speaking, reading, listening to English. So because Loughborough accepted my letter in place of the English exam, I was like, I'm going with this uni. They're very, very friendly. Heriot Watt gave me a conditional offer on condition that I do the English exam. They refused everything else. Trust me, I negotiated. I said I'll go to my uni and get a letter from the university to show that I did this course in English. I'll give them a letter from my employer. They said, IELTS is the only thing they want, or a letter from a government institution or an international organization, and
Mm-hmm.
which I was not working at. So that's why I went to Loughborough. So, what I considered as the most significant facts, I am not as technical as Kavuda was. For me, when the person that was reviewing my essays told me, Sarah, remove this university, put this one, that's what I did. I was like, okay, fine. Why am I removing and putting this one? And they said, because this uni is ranked number 10 in the country. So I was like, oh, okay, wow, interesting. So I went back, I did some research about my uni, Loughborough, and I was like, oh, wow. I followed them on Facebook and Instagram. A few weeks later, they even had these journals that were free all over campus that you could pick up and like journal for your mental health. I said, this is where I want to go. This
Mm-hmm.
is the university. So that was one of the reasons and the significant factors for me that led to the selection of the unis. Then number two was my course. I wanted to study business psychology specifically because I have an interest in understanding how I can expand the business that I run. Okay, so what I did, I was like, okay, we're expanding into corporate wellness. I need to do a course that aligns with organizations, businesses, business psychology. I was like, this is the course I want to study. So I went online and I searched MSc in business psychology in the UK. I
Yeah.
got the results. I went into the unis. I checked the modules as well, just like Avuda. I was like, I'm interested in change management. I'm interested in organizational development. Those are the things I have an interest in because it will help my business. So that's
Mhm.
what I did. And that's how I selected the unis that I selected. And those were the factors. I did not know that my university is in the rural area of the UK, guys. But Londoners will come for me if I was to choose between London and Loughborough. Loughborough any day, because London is so expensive. You almost finish all your stipend on accommodation. You
Mhm.
haven't eaten, you haven't traveled, you haven't shopped, you haven't bought gifts, you haven't sent money home, and almost 80% of your money has already been finished on accommodation. So I was like, no, I like Loughborough because it's really in the rural area, but accommodation is crazy affordable. So those are some of the things that you look at when you're choosing which uni you want to go to. If you're new and you're just joining us, please go to the comment section and tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're joining us from, so that you can be able to hear and get to see a representation of the guys on the live. Then Munene is asking, hey Kavuga, is it advisable to include your high school leadership experiences in your AC? And then he went a bit ahead to give some context. I believe Munene went a bit ahead. No, he didn't give a bit more context. But yeah, so that was his question. And
Um,
I'll combine it with Peter. Peter asked, in case my high school leadership experience has effect to my latest skills, can I include it as an example? You can combine the two, and then we'll answer the networking question.
Okay. Yeah, 100%. Remember, leadership, okay, people are different. There are those people who their leadership skills started showing while they were still young, right? And there are those people who their leadership skills have started showing later on in life. So if you feel you've been a leader since your younger years, that is okay to use those examples. If you feel it's things that you are confident you can express and share, then no problem. And I think in Cynthia Kimola's example, she talks of how she, as a head girl, okay, we went to the same high school. So she talks of how, as a head girl in high school, she was able to spot this problem and talk to the school principal and the deputy and a couple of teachers, and she was able to solve this problem, right? So I think, and that is one thing I think it can be a hack. So if you can show, let's say, a leadership example in school and at work and also in the community level, I think that can be able to give someone a perception on how you are such a whole a wholesome individual when it comes to leadership, right?
Mm, mm,
But yeah, so yes, high school examples you can use. And the same thing, if you feel like your strongest leadership examples are in church, there's no problem with giving all the three examples in that church setup. The same way in community, all three examples in community setup, in school setup. So don't feel that you need to comply to one places. You can balance the three of them, pick one from every side. But again, there are those who are good in certain setups. So yes, just do a self audit and know where your better examples come from. And yeah, so yes, you can use your leadership examples from high school. And yeah, you can also combine if what you are able to do in high school or in campus is what also maybe the same thing. I think also with networking, if you are able to make some networks back in high school and they came to help you later in life, still talk about those ones. It's all about showing people that you can be able to link with different people in the I think in the career setup, and also create relationships that can help you further. And it also shows that your leadership journey started earlier when you are younger, and you've still been able to date to make impact in the society or community or the church that you are in. Yeah, so don't shy away from sharing any examples that you feel they really define you as a leader.
Thank you. So Apo is asking, in writing his leadership essay, he drafted two examples, detailed examples that are all from academic standpoint. Is this convincing enough? I'll say that what you need to show, even for the guys that may consider using one example, for example, of high school, or church leadership, or community leadership, is that you need to show different leadership skills, like understanding group dynamics, understanding
Mm,
effective communication, understanding stress management, and using the STAR approach, and being able to give a very good example. So don't be vague. So you can use the both examples from an academic standpoint, but contextualize having learned different skills from those leadership experiences and having applied different skills from those leadership experiences.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm just running through to see if there are any other questions on the first question. I'm not seeing any other questions on the essay number one on leadership. Masharia is saying, hello, fellow Kenyans watching from Australia. Masharia, we are delighted to have you. So we'll go into answering the question two, and then we'll come back and answer the questions around networking. So, for the questions around networking, and just before I share the question, I wanted to point out a key information. If you're going to use terms around your field of work, don't use abbreviations. Just ensure
Okay.
that you spell everything out clearly. Nobody,
Mm,
a reader, doesn't have time to go and Google what does GIS mean. No, 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 no.
yeah,
So
true.
you have to use the full words.
Mm,
So for question two was relationship building and shared learning. This is one of my favorite questions in the Chevening essays. So Chevening is looking for individuals with strong professional relationship building skills who will engage with the Chevening community and influence and lead others in their chosen profession. Please explain how you build and maintain relationships in a professional capacity using clear examples of how you currently do this, and outline how you hope to use those skills in the future. This question is normally so loaded, but I'm going to share just a few tips. I'm going to break down that question and then share a couple of tips on how to answer the question. So the first half of the question is explain how you build, and then the second half is how you maintain relationships. So how you build relationships, for example, might be through shared values, through shared goals, through an agreed project, through a championing of a certain cause. You are doing something together. So that's how you build relationships. How you maintain those relationships is through collaboration. So collaboration means Kabuda and I are on a live on YouTube talking about the Chevening Scholarship. She's in a different uni, I'm in a different uni, but we've talked, we have decided to collaborate and do a video together. So you need to show how you have been able to find people with whom you share a goal, a cause, an action, the pains of a certain problem, and how you maintain those relationships. Of course, if you're sharing about the pain of a problem, you share about the solution. And then how you maintain those relationships is through mutual benefit collaboration. So you're able to say, I built this relationship with these people, and then after that, we have been able to do one, two, three together. I'll give an example. An example would be, for me, I am a Mandela Washington Fellowship alumni 2019. And I actually used that MWF experience in my essays. And I said, I had an opportunity to meet different people with whom we shared a passion for leadership back in our home countries, and were doing different things to impact the community. And I was able to collaborate with some of these alumni, and together we organized a couple of webinars on YouTube during COVID time to talk about mental health and mental well-being, and equip the community with coping skills for managing stress during COVID. So that is how there was a situation. COVID was a situation. Everybody relates to that. There was the task I wanted to take up was how do we equip and support the community. The action I took was I participated and collaborated with other alumni, and what were the results? This number of people were positively impacted, encouraged, and supported through the COVID season. So that is how I answered the networking question. These guys I met in 2019. We were doing this collaboration a whole other year later. So that's an example of how to answer the question around networking, how you build and how you maintain relationships. And you maintain relationships through collaboration and shared value, mutual benefit. Kavudha benefits, I benefit. You go to Kavudha's IG page, she's called Just Kavudha, and you follow her there. When she starts to monetize her channel, she benefits. Sarah benefits because her YouTube channel has some content. So you have to consider mutual benefit from the people that you're collaborating with. You're not the only one benefiting, or they are not the only ones benefiting. Yeah, so that's my take on how to answer that question. Then that's section one. You can do open. Paragraph one is example of how you build and maintain relationships. How are you currently doing this? You need to contextualize and say today, what are you doing with those skills of how you are building networks. So like for example, an example that you could use in the present for us, we could say that because we've learned to build and maintain relationships currently, we are doing a live to talk about our Chevening experience with potential applicants. That's what we are doing today. You may share your example about leadership in paragraph one. Use some of the skills you've gained and the networks and you've maintained. But then, instead of saying what you're currently doing, you're still stuck in the example of high school. You have to come to the present and say, how are you using those skills today in the current space to impact community, to make a difference, to grow, progress your career by meeting certain people. It might even be on LinkedIn. It doesn't even need to be like offline. So that's the second half. How are you currently doing? Then the last, which can be paragraph two. Paragraph three is the question of outline how you hope to use these skills in the future. In the future, please remember to say you want to collaborate with Cheveners, okay? You want to collaborate with guys from your
Yeah.
university. You want to collaborate with biggest other stakeholders so that you can do something aligned with the course you want to study to impact change. I would connect it to the example that Kavudha shared of as she was concluding. As an Chevening alumni, I will collaborate with scholars. I will collaborate with the networks that I build with my uni and my classmates and my classmates and my lecturers. I will collaborate with the places where I will volunteer for internships to translate some of that knowledge and skill set to your home country. That's essentially what they're looking for in the networking question. So please tune the tune and sing about the way you will use this experience to transform your home and to transform the community that you are currently supporting, the field that you currently work in. If it's research, research study and how you want to progress it. If it's policy, policy reform and formation. So you contextualize. I will also say that your essays, all of them are a story. They are a story about you, the applicant. And you need to connect from, if you're telling the story from when you were in high school, you have to come back to networking and show the way you build those networks when you are an adult and how now currently you are applying them and the way you intend to do it in the future. And then you go to the next question of studying in the UK. And then you say, now listen, guys, once I've gotten to this this is the reason I want to study this course and in these specific universities. So that's how you answer the question on networking and the way you want to use these skills in the future. Of course, remember what Kavudha said, open and close. And the close is like if somebody is not going to read everything, they should at least understand your belief system, your value system, your perception about networking. And open can be, I believe that networking is about social impact. It's about dash dash dash. You're the one that decides what your perception is, what your belief system is. So how do you have a catchy intro and a conclusion? Catchy intro, I always recommend a belief system or a thought process, a world perspective or a perspective that you have that can be an opening. Please don't go with networking means and then you're defining networking for the
Yeah.
readers. They're like, okay, well, we know what networking means. So don't go like I networking means this, but you can say networking to me is, and then put what you think networking is. So that's how you put a great catchy intro. And the extra, the conclusion is you and what you want to do when you come back home. As a Chevening alumni, I love that one. As a Chevening alumni, I will collaborate with fellow Chevening scholars and impact my community this way. And the other thing I will add is don't be vague. Don't say, I will come up with initiatives
Yeah.
to help my community. No, no, no. You have to say, I will come up with a program that will apply change management skills to equip the community so that it shows you have a specificity and this is a story about you, the individual. It's not generic in any sense. In any sense. Okay. So,
Yes.
Elvis, yes, Kavuda, you can chime in as I go through the questions and comments, and then I'll read them through. We see how to progress.
Okay, so yeah, I'm feeling a bit generous today. So I'll
Yeah.
just read one example also from my networking essays.
Mm-hmm.
And so my introduction was I have created professional networks that have grown my problem solving skills and career at large. Then I go ahead and give my first examples. Then the second one, so I'll read the third one as I conclude with my closing statement.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes like this. I met Lisa Maina from the United Nations Climate Change Directorate during a tree planting event at Nairobi National Park in 2019 and kept in touch via email and invitations to conservation events. While the United Nations Climate Change Directorate was developing the National Climate Change Learning Strategy for Kenya in 2021, Lisa invited me to get involved at high technical level, where I was able to bring in the aspect of conservation of wild spaces as a climate change mitigation initiative. This opportunity grew my interpersonal skills that have proven helpful in interacting with individuals from all levels of power. Then I go ahead and close by saying I look forward to networking with a diverse Chevening network and with organizations like Flora and Fauna International, BirdLife International, Tropical Biology Association that work in Kenya and have their headquarter offices in the UK to possibly establish partnerships that can help my work with communities and conservation. So yeah, so in my example, you can see like I also one thing that you need to do, mention names. If you collaborated with that high school teacher for your primary school, say I collaborated with Mr. Kilonzo to do a tree planting activity in this primary school where we were able to plant this number of trees, and kids were also able to get involved and for a long term during the term, you see, to impact and raise a environmentally conscious generation, right? So mention names. Like you can see in my example, like I mentioned, I met Lisa Maina in this event and we kept in touch by inviting each other to conservation events. And when since she works for the UN Climate Change Directorate, if when it was time for them to create this learning strategy on climate change, she invited me, you see. So which means like there I created a relationship, and when she was maybe drafting this strategy, she remembered, oh, this lady has these skills and she can come on board and help me with this, right? And so in my own personal level, I was able to get involved working with people from the UN. It was a technical assignment, and I was able to grow my skills, right? So, yeah, but anyway, like I said, have that opening statement and then you give your examples, and now the closing statement. Now, for me, I was able to show, since I'm in conservation, to show like I've done research on the organizations in the UK that have projects in Kenya, and I want to be able to uh, network and get involved with them, since their headquarters are in the UK, and it can be easier for me to work with them later on to craft projects back home, right? So you need to show, where did you meet this person? So I know it might be, you might just overthink it, but just be as simple as you can. So for example, now in this particular case, I can say I met Sarah from the I knew Sarah from the Chevening WhatsApp group, right? Because we were both Cheveners, you see. So you need to show what common interest you have this person. So you met this particular person in this meeting that was about, let's say, mental health, right? And since you are passionate about mental health and you work with communities and youth to create awareness, you are able to ask him to join one of your online meetings to give his insights or address a particular problem. And then you go ahead and say, these 50 youths from my village attended online and they were able to gain these insights. They were given certificates. Show your examples, document, don't feel shy about your wins. Don't if you're playing with your friend and you can see that your friend is writing these big things that they've accomplished. They've worked with the UN, they've worked with the government, with big organizations, and you're there feeling lesser, like your examples are lesser. Maybe you just worked with the chief, you raised funds to clear school fees for these needy students. That is a big thing. Don't short change yourself when it comes to your examples. Be as generous to yourself, right? Because it for them, it will show them you are able to make change in the village, right? How about if we invest in this person, what level of change can they really bring, not only to their village or just in their county alone? You see, yeah, like it's a common saying, if you want to change the world, go home and change your family, right? So if you give examples that shows you've been able to make an impact in your core area, in your village, in the place that where you stay, in the place where you work, in the place where you school, that is what they are looking for, you see. Yeah, so don't shortchange your examples. Be as generous as you can be.
Yeah. Thank you, Kavuda. You've reminded me of an example I shared with in my networking essay. So we had this conflict in during the Mandela Washington Fellowship. And I remember I outed one of the fellows because I felt that his behavior was inappropriate. He was coming late for classes. And then everybody was unhappy because I did it in public. Sarah walked in on people discussing Sarah. And I remember being so heartbroken, being so shocked, experiencing emotions I had never experienced in my life. And what I did was I went and talked to one of the program manager directors we had been given, like, to host us. And then I asked them, so, like, in a situation like this, what should you do? And then they told me, first of all, you don't out people in public. You go to them in private and you ask
Mm,
them when you're one on one. Then you come up with a solution. That's the example I used for my essay. And I said that I went and approached my mentor and I asked them how they handled this situation, and they gave me advice which I then applied and repaired the relationship with with the fellows. And so it shows an example of having been in a conflict situation and having requested for the expertise of a person in my network to then
mhm,
be able to resolve that conflict. So you need to be able to use examples and mention people. I mentioned that person at the time. When I got back home, that person was Dr. Owino. So I went and I asked Dr. Owino, what should I do? And she was in my essay. I said I went and approached Dr. Elizabeth Owino to do APCD. So don't be scared to mention very specific people. It contextualizes and tells your story. So there is someone has asked, how do we and how do I Peter was asking, how do I have a catchy intro and conclusion? Peter, I'm sure we have answered that. You can let us know in the comments. Elvi says, I chose unis that do not charge application fees. All the three have an affordable cost of living, student part-time jobs. Good job, Elvis. Make sure you apply to those unis now that you have selected them, so
yeah.
that you can be able to get an offer from at least one by the 11th of July for you guys. Godson, thank you for joining us from Nigeria. Just a minute, I want to see if I've left or skipped any questions around networking. I haven't. So, Thriving Nuggets is asking, did you run your essays through Grammarly and turn it in? Personally, I did not, because I wrote my essays myself. So I did not run them through Grammarly or Turnitin. I also did 4 drafts of my essays. So you can imagine how many times I read through them to correct every spelling error, every mistake, every unnecessary word, and to add the ones that are necessary. How about you, Kabuga? Did you run your essays on Grammarly and Turnitin?
No.
Mm,
No, because like I said last time, I had quite a number of people review my essays.
mm,
So I would work on all the corrections and send them to the next person. They come back with corrections. I work on them until now. I was personally satisfied because also some corrections would come back and I'll be like, I think I'd rather just leave it the way it is. Yeah, so I didn't run my essays through any, but if you do that AI work thing, then it will require you to run them through those apps. But
yeah.
if you do them yourself, that won't be necessary because it's your story. You are owning your story. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I've noticed that there are an issue with the platforms that we run to check our work is that they store that data. So when yes, they store that data because that's how plagiarism works. This data that is stored, when the next person will upload, it will be checked against these other individuals and
Yeah.
everybody else's work. So
Mm.
sometimes it's a bit tricky. Read through your own work, write it yourself, and then review it. So you'll make your own judgment on whether you should run them or not. But neither of us did. So the next question is Eric is saying, thank you so much for organizing the live. He's from Nairobi and he's asking, how can we get Chevening alumni to read and advise us? Please help respond.
Well, look for those particular people that are in your field, either through LinkedIn or through Instagram, and request them. Ask them, you are trying out, would you want to help me in reviewing my essays? Yeah, so if they say yes, cooperate and send them the essays. You can make a reminder or two if they don't reply back to the date that they had said. Yeah, I think that's the only way because there are a number. Chevening is now 40 years. So let's say every year they take like 35 from Kenya, right? So there are so many Cheveners out here. So you just need to know who is in your field and who is willing to help you out.
Hmm. I'd
Yeah.
also add that across the world, Chevening has been awarding this scholarship to about 14,000 people a year, which means just multiply that by 40 and imagine how many people then you can be able to reach. That's number one. Number two, you also need to find a way to give back because I've seen something with the people that have been reaching out to me. Someone just comes to my DM and says, can you help me review my essays on IG, and just drops their essays there. And I'm like, okay, interesting. Or sends an email and just says, please help me review my essays, full stop, nothing. I don't know them. I don't know what's their background. I don't know what's their motivation for applying, absolutely nothing. So I would say one of the things that um, you should consider as a tip is please pick people that are not in this year, in this cohort, because already for this cohort, from our own networks, we have guys like this that we
Yeah.
are supporting already. And for us, it's school year. So we are already in the thick of things. So I'd recommend picking people from the previous year, 2022, going backwards. That might be easier. And when I say picking people, I mean LinkedIn, as Kabuga has said, Facebook, go to Chevening Applicants 2023, 2024. I'm sure there's a Facebook group already. Go there and then say, guys, I'm looking for someone to review my essays. You might be able to find some support. On LinkedIn, you have to search Chevening Scholar 2022, 2023, or
Yeah.
2021 because people add it to their profile so that you can get a filter and then you can actually DM. For some people, if you're invested properly, you might get their contact info and do a soft introduction. Don't go like, yo, I'm so passionate about this Chevening scholarship and I want to get it. Can you just help me to review my essays? Please, please, please. Do a soft introduction.
Yeah, create a rapport first.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. Create a rapport.
Yeah, also one hack I would say,
Mm,
when people are posting their achievements, especially on LinkedIn, they
mm.
tag the people that helped them.
Yes.
So yeah, you can also go to check someone's profile and check who, if someone has been mentioned 3 times, 4 times by a couple of current Cheveners, it means this person is always willing to help out. So reach out to them, just create a rapport, introduce to yourself. I'm this and this, I'm in this field, and I've reached the level in my career where I know I feel I need a master's degree. This is my background. I do this and this, and I would like you to help me walk this journey. So yeah, that is another hack. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an amazing hack. Even
Mm,
if someone has not been mentioned by many people, you go for them because, like
yeah.
Cynthia, I'm sure is overwhelmed right now with all the people we have recommended to Cynthia. She's
Yeah.
probably now saying, "Guys, I'm sorry, I can't take any more application reviews." So
Mm,
make sure you actually go and do a bit of research and say, "I've been." The hashtag you can use to search is chosen for Chevening, or I
mm,
can't keep calm, or Chevening Scholar to whichever year you want to look for, going
mm.
backwards. It will be of a lot of help to you. Then there's a question on by Raphael. Thank you, Raphael. You asked, Sarah, you talked about mutual benefits of the relationship. What if the relationship helped you benefit, like getting a job? How do you word that? Kavuga, how do you word that?
Actually, I have one of my examples in networking that helped me get a job. Guys,
Mm,
like I said, there's no formula into this. So
mm,
someone will tell you, don't give examples where you benefited personally.
mm,
And then someone else will tell you, give examples, because it just needs to show how you're able to create networks and how
mm,
they can influence you personally, and also maybe your work and the projects that you're doing for your community. So
mm,
one of my examples was
mhm,
I wrote about how I volunteered on a
mhm,
certain event. Then, so that event, the person who organized the event, of course, I
mhm,
mentioned name. I don't want to mention. I mentioned
mhm,
the name. He had organized this event. I attended, and he created a WhatsApp group for the participants. So in this WhatsApp group, people would share job opportunities, training opportunities, leadership opportunities, all sorts of links of opportunities for professional and career growth. So at one point, an opportunity was shared where someone was looking for GIS experts. Of course, I wrote GIS in full to take part in the national census. So I said, like, I reached out to that particular person and they gave me the chance. So I talked about my experience. So I joined the sensors of the Amboseli ecosystem and proceeded to other ecosystems, that is Savo and Laikipia. So this opportunity grew my interest in wildlife research and technology use. With over 30 wildlife conservation organizations attending the census, I was able to network with Dr. I mentioned the name. I mentioned 3 people that I networked with, and with their help, I was able to secure a job with this particular organization. You see, so as long as you can show how you arrived to that, it shows. So for me, I was able to show what relationship is this. I volunteered here, so I met this guy. So when he opened the WhatsApp group, now that is the channel of communication that I had with him. And so I happened to see this opportunity that was advertised in the group, and I applied. So now from there, I'm making it all about myself, right? I've already shown how I initiated this relationship and how I maintained it. So after that, now I was able to make start a project, maybe invite him, uh, maybe seek advice for him on funding. I would have written that. But now from there, I make it about myself. So after I applied for this opportunity, I got. Where I went, I was able to network with 1, 2, 3, and I was able to get a job at the end of it, right? So it's a clear example on how. So yeah, on how a relationship can help you personally. So if you got a job, just show steps. Maybe you met this person in this organization, and you are able to keep in touch with them via email. And so one time you applied for this job in this organization and you needed someone to mentor you because maybe they'd worked for that organization or they are involved with projects, and activities with that organization and they mentored you, they advised you, and you joined that organization, you got that job, and you are able, if you are able to make more impact, reach more people, then good. Just show, just be categorical and show. Yeah, because also people get jobs through networking, but just don't make it look like it was, what is this thing called canvassing. Just don't make it look as conversing, because I remember when I don't, I think I was in a forum where someone was giving an example on how they needed a passport, and so they applied for a passport, and then they say they knew someone in the immigration department who was able to push and now get them, help them get the passport faster. How is that? That is not, actually, that shows how you are so
Corruption.
ready to hack the system, right? So just make your examples look so genuine, so legit. You see, don't make them look like canvassing, or you gave a bribe, or you engaged into something that is not legal. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd also just say getting a job is career growth, career progression, mentorship for career progression. That's the only words I would be adding there.
Mhm.
Um, I think once we finish answering the questions that are here, we'll do just a few like general tips that we think might be helpful for the guys that have joined the live. Raphael, I hope we have answered the question. If we have, please add it in the comment section and tell us, thank you guys, that has helped me. It's been insightful. The feedback helps us. Then Godson says, Godson, thank you and welcome to the live. You said you're joining late and you're sorry. And you said, please help me. For someone who is into the field of engineering, could you please help with a guideline on the essay writing? So, my input would be that you don't need a technical guideline for your industry because the readers are not technical, they're not in your field.
Mhm.
Some of the interviewers normally are in your field, but the readers, the people who get to read it before it gets to the interview panel, are not necessarily in your field. People volunteer to be readers and they just sit and they're told this is the scoring criteria, read. And
Yeah.
then they score and they forward the names to the next level. So you do not need to be extremely technical. You also don't need to be, if it's someone who's in business psychology and is reading your application, they should be able to understand what you're saying. They should see networking, they should see empathy, they should see communication skills, they should see those things, and they should also see some level of an understanding of your industry or of your field. Kavuda, do you have anything to add before we go to some of the other comments and questions?
I think you've stated it nicely. So, when we talk and ask, when we talk about you getting people in your field to review your essays,
Mhm.
that is also good. But like I said last time, get people from anyone. If you are in engineering, you get someone from the medical field. Like we said, go to LinkedIn and look for people who have been mentioned. I thank this and this and this for helping me through, and you contact them. Maybe they're in agriculture and they agree to review your essays. I say they're going to give you a more honest perspective on the structure and the understanding of your essay. Because if I'm in your field, of course I relate to the wordings that you are talking about. If maybe you helped bring a certain machinery, you see. So if you're in engineering and you're talking about how the machine in that particular country was not working, or that technical things, maybe the software, and you are able to introduce. So if you mention those terms, if I'm in your field, I'm able to relate. But if you get someone else, he might ask you, okay, what is this machine, what is it used for? So those are some of the things that you need to consider, right? Like Sarah said, if you're using abbreviations, make sure you state them out in full. So what we are saying in short is, we are looking at people, like Sarah mentioned that clearly. I think we are looking for influence for leadership. So whether you are in engineering, in agriculture, in medical, we need to see in your essays there's that flow. We can see, oh, you influenced change here, you made an impact here, you influenced policy here. You see, so yes, if you're in engineering, look for people who are in engineering, and also reach out to people. If someone is not in engineering and is willing to help you out, then that is also a win. Yeah.
Yeah. I would also add that for me, no one in my field reviewed my essays. They were reviewed by people in completely different fields, from mental health and psychology.
Mm.
And they actually, one of the people that reviewed my essays is an engineer in so even his course was so technical and complex, but he reviewed my essays. So you need to be able to standardize what you're writing so that it makes sense for people who are not technical, and also makes sense for someone who may be technical. Then when you are doing your interview, hoping you get to that stage and there's someone who's technical on your interview panel, give a technical example and say, for example, we wanted to use this tool, or we wanted to use this machine or this technology, and this is the impact, or this is the effect that it had in improving systems operations, production, if in manufacturing. The products that were being released, it reduced timeline from this number to this number, which increased revenue from 1 to 3. So you need to show that impact without being extremely technical, so that people are able to understand what you're saying. Francisca says, thanks, Sarah and Kavudha. She'll watch the rest of the video. Afis is saying thank you. Horis is saying thank you. Raphael says thank you. Diana says, wow, awesome presentation. Thank you guys for your input. It helps us to know how we are doing and that we are helping. So I'm going to ask the last question to Kavudha to share um, like final general tips for someone who, for example, may not be able to join us next week. What should they know, or what do you feel like this could help you and it would be helpful for you to know now?
Um, okay, so when it comes to the leadership and networking questions, you need to be uh, true and, like I said, realistic. Mention names, give numbers. If you're talking about a problem and you have statistics about it, for example, when you say you started a feeding program, and so give us statistics of how many, show us, like we should be able to see this was really a dire problem, like 40% of the kids in this county were reported to be malnourished, and you base that on either the newspaper or report by the Department of Education. So your statistics need to be linking, right? So and that also goes into your career goals. I think that is where your statistics matters. But also in leadership, if you're talking about a certain problem and it's a problem that has statistics, please link it. It will give you more marks, right? Yeah, and just be real with yourself and don't create stories that will be, it will be difficult for you to defend during the interview phase. You understand? Yeah, because sometimes you get interviewers that really want to corner you. They ask you, give us a leadership example, and they ask you actually not the ones that you wrote in your essays, you see? So if you are a true leader, of course you have a million examples that you've been able to influence change. So write them down and prioritize them. Say, I'm picking these three, or I'm picking these two, and I'm going to expound on them, right? And so if someone wants an extra example, you can give, right? That is why we are saying avoid AI, because AI will have you your mindset into one place and cramming terminologies and cramming examples, in which will come into the interview phase. You are given a follow-up question and you're not able to answer that. So I can say, just stay true to yourself, believe in yourself, and yeah, but no matter how much impact, or however you view your examples, if you believe in them, that is what matters. If you believe in them, because for you to write something down, it means you've assessed yourself, and it means you believe that this is something that you trust yourself, and you are so confident in yourself that I was able to make a change here. That is why I'm giving you guys this example, right? So that confidence needs to come out. Mm? praise yourself. If put in the results down there, don't be shy. If you are able to impact 4,000 students, put it down there, as long as we can see where that is going. Again, be realistic, because someone can always tell hizi ni stories za jaba, right? So be true to yourself, be confident, and yeah, you will get it. It's not rocket science, I promise.
Thank you, Kavuda. Guys who are not Kenyan, stories ajaba means the kind of stories you tell when you're high on weed, or like when you're smoking, when you're
Chewing.
using cat mirai in our local language. So I'll reiterate what Kavuda has said. Don't lie. If you have impacted 50 people, don't lie and say 1,000. Even the kind of hours of work you've done. If an interviewer is keen to go through your application, they'll say, really? 50,000 people in 1 year? Or in like 2 years? What exactly were they doing? And them alone. So don't lie. Be sincere in your application. For the networking question, remember to add diversity, that you can be able to interact with people that have opinions that are different from yours. And you can do it respectfully, because there are people who get into fights. I remember a scenario where guys literally physically fought because of dissenting views. So you also need to show that in networking, you're able to hear the opinions of people that vary, and you're able to um, hear them respectfully. Kavuda, in my interview, I had a follow-up question because me and Mandela Washington, I was singing them off my butt in my application. So one of the applicants asked me, okay, fine, great, we've got that, but what else have you done? I had to use a literal example of a leadership experience I was having with my team at the time, where we were struggling with developing a technical solution. So I told them, so we are doing this project to build this solution, and I'm not technical, I'm not a software engineer, and we were having problems with the concept design and the development of the program. What did I do? I went to school and I learned how to code, so that I could then be able to understand where the team was coming from, and then we're able to regroup and agree on milestones for each individual member of the team. And I think that helped build up on top of the experiences I had already shared in the interview. Also, when you're doing your essays, you can also consider adding what you've learned. From this experience, I learned to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you feel like you still need more words, the ones you've already shared are not enough. I learned how to manage conflicts. I learned how to listen to different opinions and maintain my cool. I learned how to be empathetic, to see things from other people's perspective. I learned how to I learned my leadership style. So, what have you also learned from the STAR approach that you used? Don't lie. Use social capital. So, for me specifically, one of the things that has gotten the people that I'm supporting with their interviews to actually get me to review them was social capital. We already have existing relationships with them. I have seen the impact of their work. I believe in what they are doing, and I know them personally. So I'm like, okay, I'm already juggling like 15,000 other things, but because I know this individual, I'll be able to then create time. There are people who I don't know personally that I have also supported, but it has been because they have been referred to me by people I know. So I already know they've done a check. They've done a check. If I'm going to give like 2 hours of my time to review an essay, it's not a wastage. And the next time we're having a meeting, this person didn't change anything. And I'm wondering, oh my God, what? What?
Mm,
2 hours of my time and absolutely no change. So build social capital. Even with us, come to us in our inboxes and in our DMs and engage us and tell us, hey, I attended the video. It was really great. Thank you so much. Leave it there. Please don't drop the essays and tell me, here are my essays. Have a look at them. I don't know you. I just met you.
yeah.
Yeah, so people have to know you, then they have to like you, then they have to
Mm,
trust you. Once they trust you, they will do the things that you're asking them to do. But if they
mm,
don't know you, they're not sure if they like you, they don't trust you at all, it's very difficult for them to come through. So
mm,
build on social capital, even outside of Chevening, with other people in the community. Tell a mentor or a potential mentor, I'm applying for this thing and I need some support, and you have experience in leadership. I'd like to hear your input. Build social capital. Then
mm.
Learn, try again, and put in the work. Please
Yes.
don't go and use an AI and then you send Sarah to review an essay that was written by an AI. Today I'm the one that's shouting. In the last in the last live, it's Kavuda who was shouting. Today is my turn.
Mm.
Yeah, so please put in the work in terms of doing the research for the unis you want to go to, in terms of doing the research for the application. And that brings me to Godson's question on what is the essay based on. Please, Godson, put in
Ah.
the work. Go and do your research and find out what is this scholarship about and what are these questions these people are talking about, so that you can be able to know what this live was about. The scholarship is called the Chevening Scholarship, and it gives students a 1 year paid masters in the UK, fully sponsored, your air tickets, accommodation, upkeep, school fees, everything paid for 1 year to do your masters. So that's the only input I'll give about the scholarship. Godson, you can do the rest of the homework. LB says, thank you so much, Sarah and Kabuda, for this presentation. I have a clearer understanding of how to approach my essays. I have to complete them this weekend, hopefully submit the Chevening application. Perfect. Elvis, we are wishing you the very best with your application. Kavuda, do you have some closing remarks before we end?
So one thing I'll tell people,
Mm,
with this scholarship, only 2% of applicants get it,
mm,
right? So if you start the work, make sure you complete and make sure you believe in yourself that you're going to make it. So one thing you should ask yourself, how bad do I want this scholarship, right? So how hungry are you for this scholarship? That means doing in the work. By now you should be conversant with every detail that is in the Chevening website. You should have read blogs written by previous Cheveners. You should have read articles written by Chevening staff themselves. You should have followed the social media pages. You should already base yourself and proper understanding of what happens with Chevening, right? The next thing is, if you are in your field, you should have looked for people who have gotten this scholarship and gotten an idea what is it that they do in this field, and assessed yourself, what have I done and which level am I at, and started consideration, does these and these examples that I have of my leadership, of my networking, qualify me? Do I have enough confidence in these examples to put them down on paper, right? So yeah, do the work, put in the work, and I tell you, you're going to be among that 2%, because you trust me, no one will just tell you you won't ask anyone, how did you get the Chevening scholarship, and they just tell you, I just applied, I just submitted my essays, I was shortlisted, I did the interview, right? That is someone who doesn't want to encourage you, you see? Like a serious person will tell you it's a lot of work. You need to be ready to do this, because it's not for lazy people. It's not, this scholarship is not for lazy people. I remember one of the Zoom meetings I attended while I was applying. So there was this Chevener who was current that time, said it's a 1 year engagement. So it's a thing that you have to do every other year. And like I said last time, writing your essays, submitting them, being shortlisted is only 30% of the work. 70% of the work is done after you've been confirmed. That is when you start. Now even when you apply to universities, you're not even that serious, because you're also skeptic, am I getting this scholarship? But the moment when you're confirmed in June, congratulations, you've received this award. That is when now you will start following up with universities, doing a lot of things, right? So it is a 1 year thing. So if you're a lazy person, I will just tell you, don't even bother. Don't even bother, because it is work. Here is work. And one thing I would advise you guys, don't if people decide to give their time to review your essays or give you tips and much information, never ask a question that you can find answers on Google. So like the question someone was asking, what is the scholarship about? Like that is such an ignorant question. such that even hata kama even like even if I woke up generous, like I want to give solutions to the world, and you come asking me, okay, I saw you got this scholarship, what is it about? You think I'm going to spare my 5 seconds to chat and write to you, oh, Chevening is about. Actually, Sarah was even very generous and so good to even tell you, oh, it's about this, it's about this. Never ask a question that you can find an answer on Google. Uh, Ask a question where you've done research and you've not understood very well. You see, yeah. So ask questions that I can see you've really done the work, and now you need more explanation on this thing. But I'm not going to start defining terms for you. That I think that was being done 10 years ago when the internet was not available. But now, please just don't be lazy, don't be ignorant, just do the work. And when you're approaching people, just understand this person doesn't have the whole day or even any minute, they owe you nothing. So if you want someone to really help you, you need to show that you are somewhere, you really want this, and you are ready to cooperate. If someone sends you, go watch Cynthia Kimola's video, go back to the videos on Sarah's YouTube and watch. Go and watch and come back with a question. Okay, I watched this video, you said this, I just wanted clarification on this. But when you start asking me questions that are in my previous videos, you ask me questions that when you just type on Google, you are getting answers. Really, why do you think you're so special for me to spare some time for you? So don't be ignorant. That is one thing I'll say. Detail is key, so make sure that you equip yourself with proper details and as much information that you can get, so that when you're approaching someone can see, really, this is a serious applicant and I need to spare my time and help them through. So that is what I would say. Yeah.
Thank you, Kavuda. I thought today you were not going to shout, but well, guys, you have had. I want to share a last top tip and then we'll end. A last top tip is, once you have done some research about your unis and you have found the modules, go and search for the lecturers that teach those modules on LinkedIn and then connect with them. Just send them a message and tell them, I'm applying to come to this uni. I'm excited about the work you're posting on this platform, and I'm hoping that we can connect with them. In my interview, I was asked, because I said that I mentioned someone very specific that I wanted to mentor me in a different university, actually. And one of the interview panelists asked me, what have you done after identifying that person? Hey, I was like, I'm ready for this question. I've already connected with them on LinkedIn. I've sent them a message and requested for mentorship. They have responded and said they're willing. I was like, I know what I'm saying. So make sure you go the extra mile, and that would be the pro tip that I would be giving, so that you can be able to, like, just do what we are saying. Do what we are saying. It's going to help and grow you in immense ways, and also it's going to give you what you need to be able to make the most competitive application possible. It's crazy competitive. This year there were 70,960 applicants and they only selected 1,400. So you have to give it your best. And that's why Kavuda keeps saying, you must believe that you can get in, that you can articulate yourself well. And even when you don't think that you can do it, sit down, breathe in, and have a conversation. Listen, did I not do 1, 2, 3? Have I not achieved EFG? Do I think I can communicate well? Yes. Then you start writing the essays or revising the essays. We are wishing you the very best with your applications. And in case you have any questions, by the way, this is something I also wanted to mention. On my social media, I actually respond to all the comments. If you ask a question about, should I apply for Chevening first before the universities, I respond. So make use of that. I also have a community for sending out, like, for example, this live on, you send me an email on Ask Chevna Sarah. Even when you go to my YouTube videos, you'll just see that email. It's there. It's actually pinned on some of those videos, so that you have some way to be able to reach me and to get added to the database we are trying to compile. Lastly, next week on Saturday, we are going to be answering the question of um, studying in the UK. How do you answer this question? And your career plan. How do you answer the question of the career plan? If you have not already gotten there, like Elvis, who's about to finish, was like, "This is the only video I needed. I've finished I'm submitting today." So he's out of the list. But next week on Saturday, we'll be here at 6 p.m. talking about the last two essay questions, and we'll have a different guest on the channel. You're welcome to join us. I'm also inviting you to subscribe to this channel. If you like content around this Chevening application, I talk about mental health, leadership, travel, and business. So that is the kind of information that I share on my platforms and talk about this to other people as well. Kavuda on IG is just Kavuda if you want to connect with her and just see some of her uni experiences, because she's always posting about her stories. Oh, tea at University of Kent, or coffee at University of Kent. I'm like, okay, so you can check her out and engage with her content as well. And we are really, really grateful that you are able to stick with us up to this time. I'm wishing you guys a great, amazing rest of the evening, and also a very, very competitive application. We will see you. For those of you that will be joining us, I'll see you guys next week on Saturday.